What's up, YouTubers? Today we're going to take a look at the TM Hunt M18 fixed blade. This is designed and custom made by Todd Hunt. It sports a 10-inch blade from here to there of 01 tool steel, which is a non-stainless, of course. Very tough stuff, though. This thing weighs 1 pound and 12 ounces, and it prices at $587. And before you freak out about it, understand this is made not by machines. This is made by a human being, Todd Hunt's hands. And you understand the grinding. This thing is effectively the equivalent of grinding 3 full-size fixed blades, all the work that goes into it. So you kind of do understand. Again, it's kind of a niche product, but for me, it was not excessively priced in short. The Kydex sheath that comes with it, of course, nicely formed. We'll talk a little bit about one of the weaknesses of that when we get there a little bit later. In terms of some comparisons and alternatives, for myself, the reason I'm doing this review, I've had this knife for a year and I used it for principally most of last year's camping. But I have a new one that I'm going to be testing out this year, and as a good comparison, it is the Tops Storm Vector. So that particular blade weighs about 1 pound and 8 ounces, I think. So it's a little bit lighter, a little bit longer, or a little bit long, well, quite a bit longer blade, 12.5 inches. And it's principally more of a chopper, so it's not going to be as multi-function and utility for wood. That's okay. I had been wanting for one of these for a while, and that definitely could be considered an alternative to one of these, big beefy ones. Also, one of the blades that I only have the small version that you could possibly consider as this is the Tom Brown tracker from Tops. This is the T2, which is like not the smallest, but the second smallest little guy they have. But if you imagine the bigger one, I think it has like a 6.5-inch blade. So the blade would go to, roughly there. But this particular one, again, multi-use. It has the skinning, hunting capabilities, the wood processing. This particular one actually has, a saw on the back there. So that would be, kind of a total utility option. And then for myself, though, actual use case, really what this is, I wanted to see how would I deal with just this M18 replacing my Holtzbrook hatchet and my K-Bar BK7 that I'd used for about 3 years. I'd used this one for 3 or 4 years. Obviously, it's got lots of wear. And then I added in the Holtzbrook as a hatchet just for really cutting down and chopping wood. And so, that's kind of what some alternatives, really. You're thinking this is like, hey, can this one tool do what these, in some cases, many tools can do? And for my purposes, I found that it could do them. It just wasn't as great as the specialized tools that they are. Let's go ahead and jump into this, though. The pros of this knife, it is very comfortable in hand, extremely comfortable. In fact, whether with or without gloves, most of the time I was actually wearing gloves, and yeah, does a really nice job. Nice and beefy, just a small amount of swell there. But yeah, I was able to chop quite a while in this thing, and it did just great. So fantastic. For debarking, the hologram section here is fantastic, as you have this nice crown up here, very comfortable in the hand, and you can basically do some draw cuts against your the bark on wood, and that does a good job of that. Debranching, I took apart an entire Christmas tree, and that's what I put in the front side montage. Was great weight and balance for that one. Really liked it. It's definitely one of the strengths. The chopping, again, I was able to chop smaller trees. I don't think anything I'd want to do maybe more than maybe 3 or 4 inches, though, in terms of the trunk of it. So it'd be definitely for smaller ones. Otherwise, I'm really going to just stick with a saw. But, again, if this is all I had, I could do an appropriate kind of tree size, so decent enough for that. The heat treat on this thing was fantastic. I don't know a lot about 01 tool steel and what its Rockwell hardness should be, and it is good at. But this thing, I haven't had to sharpen it yet, and I definitely used it all last camping season. It's getting a few chips in there, but in terms of the actual functional edge, nope, it's doing a great job. Love that. And then the lanyard for the skinning tasks, you can see that it's on here. I just kind of have it shortened up. But you can utilize this hole to create a pinch grip right there. Put your finger, oops, sorry, we're out of camera. You can put your finger on there and then wrap that lanyard around your arm right here. And you can actually use it for skinning. I didn't use it for that purpose. I would just use a skinning knife if I was actually such a skinning kind of person. So that's just not for me. In terms of some of the cons of this, there was no real ferrule rod striking spot. I did try the end right here, even here at the pommel. Maybe if I had to design it, I probably possibly would have just left this one flat, and then I could have had that pommel be a sharper edge, and then you could, in fact, just go ahead and drag a ferrule rod against that. So, maybe you could do like the Whitecraft River Knives Firecraft ones, where you could actually maybe have a small section in here, possibly even just a slight cutout that was sharp. Who knows? Maybe in between the two, maybe right up here. Not sure, but there was no real good capability for ferrule striking. The Kydex snap, unfortunately, even just out of the box, was very loose. This thing is just, it came off right away. So I wouldn't want to really rely on let's say, storing the knife upside down, because it's just super, super loose. If you look at that, it just comes off. And so I may have to replace that or do a little bit of work on that. It's just one of the weaknesses. The feather sticking on this is definitely tough to do because you have this nice section down here and here, which are convex edges, and those would be good for feather sticking, but you're just so far away from the wood that you don't really get much access to it. So I found out the best way that you could actually do some feather sticking is to basically hold the hollow grind section and then pull the wood. And even that wasn't really great. So kind of a weakness on this one. And then the last thing was the batoning and splitting. It presented quite a challenge. If you think of this as kind of, pardon me to Joseph the Mink Man, but I bought this many, many years ago, like 20. If you think about a log that has this sort of a diameter right here, there's no real good place that you could do any sort of batoning. You end up kind of in no man's land in the middle, where you start the baton here, but then it moves in. Then you end up with this hollow grind section, and they have different grabs. So as far as the batoning, not the greatest either. So, it can do those other things, and I was able to and beat on this crown section, and it obviously was tough enough to beat this thing up. But it just didn't handle it as it would, kind of a straighter edge. So kind of a weakness there. Overall, I would say that this is probably the best single tool you could get for wood processing that could double as a camp knife. I was able to cut things as well. You saw the cork in the opening montage. But it's not going to replace my specialized tools. For cutting something of decent size, I'm going to go ahead and use a saw, and that's going to work just fine for me. For feather sticking, I'm going to go ahead and use a good old Scandi ground, camp sort of knife or bushcraft knife. And then as far as felling trees or even, taking off branches, I think that this is pretty good. You just choke up on your hatchet, and it does a really good job of that. So on the whole, is it going to replace? No, it's not. Could you survive with this one tool, though? Yeah, you could. And it's actually an awful lot of fun. It does come with a bit of a price, but you also understand the makings that happen with it. So hope you did enjoy this. If you did, go ahead and like and subscribe, and have a great day. Take care now.